case in Puyallup, Washington. And it was back, I believe, in 2009. So let's get into it. The perpetrator was a lot of the same outwardly traits. I mean, it was just evident that there was a lot of narcissistic traits in this particular person. And some people picked up on it and some people didn't, obviously. And I think narcissistic people, from the research I've done, I'm not a psychologist or anything, looks like they're trying to fill some kind of hole. And I believe what they say. The more they want to bring you in and keep you, the meaner they treat you. It's some kind of angry, vicious cycle. And I feel I can speak to it because I've been through it myself. And Chris Watts and this case just have so many similarities. And I know these two cases have been beat to death, but I think what I'm trying to do is point out to you that have these women paid a little more attention to the truths, clues presented to them at the beginning of dating, or maybe done a little more research, possibly this may have not have ended this way. Nobody knows for sure and nobody can say, but we can surely try to keep it from happening again. That is for sure. And this one has so much information out there, but I think what's important is a lot of what transpired in the years afterwards, because the traits displayed by the family definitely confirm the narcissistic atmosphere that the perpetrator grew up in, thereby feeling entitled, feeling like he owned things, which were people, when I say things, and feeling like he should have his way and be able to treat those that care about him pretty much like crap and keep going. And a lot of times the women they pick are women that are very committed, very devoted. They take the best of your traits and they use them against you. So it would behoove you to keep some of yourself hidden and not just present all of yourself on a platter to a man just because you feel attracted to them and are trying to work on a relationship. It sounds ideal and it sounds romantic, but in today's day and age, we have to know there's much evidence to support that that is not the case. And that's what keeps me up at night, worrying about how many women out there are being sacrificed. There's women in Mexico that are turning up missing all the time. There's Indian women that are turning up all the time, that are turning up missing and dead. And they think at the beginning in Mexico they thought it was one perpetrator, but as it came out, it was multiple perpetrators. I mean, men were feeling that it's okay to off their wives and just throw them out there in the desert. And I think it's pretty much with the same thing with the Indian people. I am definitely more interested into researching that a lot more. So in the meantime, let's finish up this case. And when the woman came across the man had initially tried to date the older sister. It was a family of multiple siblings. The sister, however, was freaked out. She thought he was a freaking creepazoid, as well as a pathological liar, and she picked up on that right away and didn't want anything to do with him. So he came one day uninvited, much as narcissists do, and ended up meeting the younger sister, becoming quite interested in her. The older sister did warn her about this weird freako, and to be careful, and that she wished they didn't date at all. This young woman did not have a lot of dating experience and got pulled into the love bombing, which I'm sure is what happened at that point in time. And she thought she could save him. If there was anything bad that showed about him, she was pretty much a devoted person and a very empathetic person as well. So it wouldn't have been strange at all that she would think that she could change him Ladies, 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 and any men that need to hear this, because I know it's on both sides of the road. Like Maya Angelou says, when somebody shows you who they really are, believe it. Don't freaking engage any longer. There's plenty of fish in the sea. Move on. And so she didn't do that, and they ended up getting married, and it was all pretty quickly. The man lacked tact and work ethics. Every time he got a job, he complained about a job. He complained about management on the job. You know, he could do things better and blah, 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 blah. So he eventually always ended up getting fired. And because of this, the finances were slim. The female ended up being the breadwinner. And so they ended up moving out of state in with the father. That's the perpetrator's father. Well, that whole family scene in itself was just a freaking nightmare. The perpetrator was brought up to disrespect women and brought up in a very perverted manner. So enough said with that part right now. At the time they moved in, his siblings lived in the home, a brother and a sister. And they were living in the living room, and the father was the bigger freakazoid between the two at this point in time. Scared the crap out of Susan. He was stalking her. He was treating her like she was a romantic individual. So I'm sure you're getting who this is. And then she felt so uncomfortable that the perpetrator, Josh Powell, finally got a job away from that state, and they moved back to where they came from. Again, they move. He has a job. They're both working at the same place. He gets fired numerous times, although everybody likes the way Susan works. Nobody likes the way Josh works, the way Josh's attitude is. Whatever. He doesn't care. I'm sure he thinks he's always right. It's the world that's wrong. So screw everybody else. However, in much a narcissistic fashion, he had plenty of time and energy to control everything that was going at home. Keeping the money strings very tightly, even though he's not the one earning most of the income, and whether he wanted and what he wanted, whenever he wanted, and no one else in the family could. Susan had a very strict budget, and if she went over the budget, there would be hell to pay. I mean, he would lose his cojones, totally verbally abusing her, going off, screaming, shouting. There's never been any confirmed physical abuse that I've seen, but it wouldn't be surprising if he didn't, like, push her with his chest or something like that, because they like to lord over in a physical fashion as well as in a verbal fashion. He was so strict that if she went grocery shopping and she even went $3 over the budget, he would lose his shit. That really concerned Susan because she had two boys that she wanted to grow up healthy and strong. Well, how are they going to grow up healthy and strong when they had the only meat that she was able to give them was hot dogs? She always worried about that. And she always worried about how she was going to take care of them and keep them fully clothed. He refused to even let her buy socks for the boys. Socks! He let her buy shoes, the cheapest ones, the cheapest of clothes, but no socks whatsoever. One of their teachers at their school felt so bad for the boys, she bought each of the boys a bag of socks. Susan was so embarrassed and yet so grateful. The thing about it is this abuse had to be going on long before the babies came. You know, I'm sure the babies in his mind solidified it to him where he could just pretty much use her as a welcome mat. But the fact is, Susan must have been such a very caring person and a very strong person that he just wanted to suck the life out of her. And I mean on an emotional basis at this point in time. And the fact that she was so committed to the relationship and to the marriage may have not been the best thing for her. But she's trying. She's trying so hard. And she's trying to do the best by her boys as well. There were signs of this type of behavior before with Josh. He had another girlfriend before Susan. And she had grant money to go to college. But I guess they were living together. I'm not sure. That part was unclear in what she was saying. But he eventually got his hands on her grant money and just usurped the whole thing. And she never even got to attend college because of that. I'm sure that he never even felt bad about it. I'm sure that he felt entitled to it. And screw her and her education. That's the way narcissists are. They put their own selves first. They put somebody else's feelings last. Because they don't have the capability of acknowledging somebody else's feelings. And that is very dangerous when you are just a thing to somebody that says that they love you. It's so fucking screwed up and mental because you love them and they claim to love you, but then they still want to crap all over you. And at one point, Josh had a discussion with a friend of his about, hey, what would you do if you were trying to get rid of a body? What do you think the best way to dump a body off that somebody would never find it? And they had talked about dumping a body in the mine because there were so many mines around there. Nobody would ever find the body. So one day after that conversation, the daycare ended up calling the sister-in-law, Susan's sister-in-law, Josh's sister, which ended up being one of the best things in the world, and said that Susan hadn't shown up with the kids, nor has she called to say she was going to be late. This was extremely unusual, as Josh didn't show up to work either, and usually would have called in. He hadn't called in. So pretty much at this point in time, the family was MIA, missing in action. The town is small. There's a lot of Mormons in there. And when Susan was missing, and she was such a nice person, had such a nice reputation in the family, finally somebody contacted Susan's mom and says, did you know that your daughter's missing? Well, she freaked out. She calls Josh and she demands, what did you do to her? And he hung up on her. He finally gets in touch with his sisters and he's like, oh, what's going on? Everything's fine. Me and the kids were out camping. We went out last night. You know how we do. And the sister was like, it was freezing last night. What do you mean you went camping last night? Oh, we'll have all the things to keep them warm. Well, where's Susan? I don't know. She was there when we left. But when they talked to the kids said Mom had gone camping with them, but did not come back. Josh had to know that the kids were going to say something sooner or later. And when he said that, he was so sad, the little kid that did. I'm not naming any names. I'm not going to differentiate because it doesn't matter at this point in time. They had been seen at a Comfort Suites. This was before anybody knew Susan or was just missing. They thought the whole family was missing. And they were seen at a Comfort Inn at about 6 in the morning. The breakfast lady seen them and was cleaning up, kind of talked to them. The kids were kind of sad. She asked him if everything, hey, what's up? And the kids stated that the mom had died. And they were just really sad and depleted. So she had walked away, but then when she turned around, he was scurrying the kids out of the Comfort Inn. She didn't think too much about it because, people do what they do. They come, they go. They have, their own time factors. But then later, she's seen on the TV what was going on with the Powell family and realized that that was Josh and the 2 boys that she had seen. Well, that didn't stop Josh. He went back home, said he didn't know where Susan was, wasn't interested in where Susan was, could give a flying flip where Susan was, just continued to go about his business. He was trying to act like he gave a shit, but if you really look at him, you can tell him and Chris Watts, in their videos, they don't give a shit. They do not give a shit. They give a shit about themselves getting busted. I mean, there's a nervousness there, but they don't care. They try as hard to muster up emotion so people don't suspect them, but it just isn't happening. So Josh goes and takes the kids out of school, starts moving stuff out of the house, closed down any funds that Susan had, liquidated everything, and ran off to another state to live back with his dad, his brother, and his sister. And this could have been a really, really bad time for the boys in more ways than one, from what I'm hearing. People run around naked. The kids were starting to showing trauma signs. They wanted to run around naked all the time too at the most inappropriate times. There was something about the brother answering the door when the cops went over and he was walking around naked. It was the way the whole family was acting that was just weird and perverted. So then Josh goes to go do a TV interview, and he's doing it badly because, like I said, narcissists have a hard time expressing emotion. And I think he was trying to emote, I care and I give a shit, but it just wasn't working. And his dad was there, who is very controlling, everybody has said. And he pretty much wants to be the one to corral and take over the whole, fucking interview with the TV. So finally he bullies his way on there and then starts talking about how him and Susan had this weird sexual perversion kind of thing. Remember, that's what I was telling you. Susan was telling everybody how weird and what a freakazoid that her father-in-law was. And he was acting like Susan was engaging in all of this perverted crap with him. And said that on national TV. That's when the police realized, hey, we got to look into him too, because there could be something going on there. That's when they went over there and the naked person answers the house. They go in and they start looking around and they take Stephen's computer and they find all of these hidden images of Susan, as well as porno that he took of two very young girls while they were in the bathroom taking baths, changing clothes, that type of thing. So he got his ass in a lot of trouble, and there were deviated sexual items there. There were perverted things that he had wrote about Susan, because he was definitely living in a delusion in his mind. And needless to say, he also had proof that Susan just wanted to be a daughter-in-law to him and nothing else. But whatever, must in a narcissistic fashion, she satisfied a need in his life, so he was going to take full advantage of it. As well as the fact that he was a pedo. So he ended up being sentenced for that later, and ended up doing, I think it was like 7 years for pedo and porno. The rest went on him, without him. Even though he had completely controlled the situation up until then, he couldn't now. The boys were now getting older and still living in the home. They were speaking a lot more, and this was starting to really scare the crap out of Josh. When all the pedo porno thing happened, they went to the grandparents for a time. And Josh was just livid. Because remember, these were possessions to him. These were his things. How dare anybody come in and interfere with him and his boys? Even though he could care the less if they ate hot dogs or not. He wondered how they thought they could get away with doing this. Planted seeds of fear in the children, manipulated them into being scared to speak in front of anybody, taught them how to be secretive, and it showed very much in the boys. People around him who loved him, and the grandparents seeing how scared they were to be in the middle of something so awful and to do something that might be bad and, hurt their dad. I don't know what he told him, but he got them all scared and paranoid. When the social worker would ask them, they said nothing, although they did seem scared to say things like they even had fun with the Coxes on the farm. They were scared to say any damn thing at all. I mean, they were shut like a bear trap. It was PTSD-like. When the little kid thought he was in trouble, he would look up at the sky and he would cry, "Mommy, where are you?" Josh was told that he was going to go through psych testing to uncover his sexual deviations, because he's pushing really hard to have the boys. He's getting visitation with them at his center right now, and it's supervised. And he's also pushing real hard to have visitation done in his home. This is not unusual, and it is court mandated at that point in time that the visits do take place at a center. But it's not unusual if they can get the boys into a home setting for them to have visitation in a home also. I don't understand. I don't know if that, I can't even speak to that. I do know that they ended up having to go to court to defend their position after it had happened. One time the grandma was going to take a picture of the boys, and the boys were like, wait, we need to turn the lights off. So again, there's some signs there of trauma that's going on with them, because it totally freaked her out. Why would that happen? So, Josh wanted to cut the Coxes off and didn't want them to have anything to do with the kids at all. He had pretty much kept the kids away from the Coxes, the grandparents, in the meantime. And to know that they had the kids and what they could possibly be saying to the Coxes definitely had his jockeys in a twist. And he was in a rage about it. And then when he found out he had to go through testing, oh my God. Because psych sex tests are extreme and personal. They can do things as intense as monitoring your genitalia reactions. And this was scheduled for February the 11th. And he still got visitation prior to that testing. When he had left court that day, he was in a freaking rage. It was obvious that he wasn't going to take this lying down. I don't know why they didn't do more to protect the kids during the visit if they insisted on taking the kids over there. What unfolded next, as we all know, was a tragedy of errors. The lady didn't remember the address. She was so shook up. The 911 was rude and condescending. 6 minutes passed by before anybody got to the damn house to help him out. I don't know if that would have even helped, because we know that the kids that had hatchet marks on them were laying by each other holding hands. Josh sat on a thing of gas and lit a match and dropped it. And that blew the whole house up. The social worker didn't get killed because she moved out to the driveway. Now, in her defense, she cared for the kids very much. She was like a grandmother to him. Social worker is not the right term for her because she did not go to college for that job. She had on-the-job training. Well, as you can see, that was not good enough. Between that and the condescendingness of the 911 operator, nothing could be done to save the kids. And who wanted to save Josh? The house was blown up. The kids were killed. The Coxes, who had lost so much, lost the grandchildren too. At the memorial service, Josh's mom wanted to bury him next to the children. The Coxes threatened to sue if they buried him by the grandchildren. Stupid people, what the hell? They didn't want to come and visit their grandchildren and have to visit them next to the man who killed them. Money was raised and it was stopped, and now only children are buried there. And there's also a fund called Christmas Boxes that are around the states. And there may have been done already, statues of the kids being made. Charlie's Dinosaur was a picture, is now a logo for a kid's supply collection. Josh was cremated and buried in secret because they knew his ass wasn't going to be safe, and that they would probably do all kinds of disgraceful things to his burial plot or wherever the hell they put him. May he burn in hell. May he continue to burn and never have any peace. He had given many signs prior to this, like somebody committing suicide, He gave stuff away of the boys. He withdrew his money. Now, what the fuck did he do with the money? That's one thing I never saw an answer to. And a lot of the information I got for what happened afterwards, I got from the Anne Rule book, where she does talk about this. I guess she knew the family as well. And the Powell family took the Cox family to court trying to get some of Susan's estate after all of this had happened. These people have no shame or no comprehension of what shame is, and you can see how money grubbing they were and why Josh came out the way he did. So, ladies, there's a few things. When you look at the pictures that you see in the video, notice how Josh is so possessive of Susan. Body language says everything. He's always grabbing her, like around the throat, holding him close. She probably thought it was caring. But in every single picture almost, she has the same need to have her that close. That is just weird. And again, it's a narcissistic thing. It's a hole they're trying to fill that needs to be filled by themselves. They can't fill, is what I think. I hope you enjoyed this. I do have a very, very special live panel coming up to talk about how things like this can happen and how you can possibly avoid it if you're getting into a bad relationship. I hope that you'll look forward to it and subscribe for me. And if you really are trying to help me grow my business, I have a Buy Me a Cup of Coffee link there. And for the first 20 subscribers, when I dump the live broadcast, who subscribe will be getting a free pin from me. And that will be unveiled on live broadcasting day. Stay safe out there, people. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye now. Okay, guys and dolls, I have provided a slew of clues for you to use. I have tried to lay out the scenario by building a foundation and then adding the details of the perpetrator's actions in a logical progression of events. So follow the clues to solve this crime. Best of luck to you in solving this murder mystery. And if you believe that you have solved the mystery, please respond in the link down below and then come back next week, same day, same time, to find out if your crime solving skills have solved the current crime scenario using True's clues.